Sorry, boy. But his captain's got to teach his men what happens to those what crossing.
Captain's got to teach stuff.
Good morning from the Bat Cave. It is Sunday, February 27th. If you guys want a quick update, if you want to pray for me, I'm closing on a rental property this week. Again, all this is in preparation for what's to come. And as I get through this and as I'm going through my apostles' teaching, I'm probably going to try to intersperse this with some practical wisdom on how to control your retirement accounts and your accessible funds to get into things like real estates and businesses, or maybe even pieces of businesses, to have basically assets that you can manage and control during what could be an economic collapse. And that way your retirement account, you won't necessarily get taxed to death, but you can still use that money to potentially create jobs or housing and shelter for people, and purchase food with it. So that's what I'm working on my finances towards. It's been something I've been doing for a couple of years, and I'd be happy to share that information. I think more people in the body of Christ need to do this. And you guys, you don't want to be sitting on $1 million in retirement like a lot of people are going to when Christ comes back. You do not want to be sitting on that money inaccessible. And don't be surprised if they sanction Christians' accounts, because they're already doing stuff like that. Just don't be surprised if that happens and you can't access your 401k. So what you really want to do is you want to put it into businesses and assets and stuff like that, and out of the stock market. Honestly, before the stock market hits 40,000 points on the Dow, you want to get it all out. You want to get it out and put it into anything that you can control physically, because if you put that in a rental property, those people can pay you in cash, or they can pay you in Bitcoin. You can use stuff like that. But anyways, we'll get into all that later. For now, I want to talk about this is going to be Russia's end game, and we're going to get through Russia's complete strategy in the Middle East. Again, this is in my book. This is an illustration from my book, and we're going to go through the Bible. We're going to go through the news clips, and then we're going to go through the maps, and I'm going to show you. Again, this isn't stuff that I'm predicting by the headlines. This is stuff I wrote down in 2006, and Russia's been doing everything I said they were going to do back in 2006. I had no idea how close we were when I wrote this paper in college, but the reality is now that I see the prophecies, we are actually in the seventh millennium since the world was created. And there's a passage I want you guys to see. There's a passage, if you guys remember, I do this over and over again. I try to be redundant so you guys can remember. But there's a passage where, based on Psalm 90, Moses says that 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord, or as a watch in the night. And then Jesus says this in one of the Gospels, and most people don't recognize this. This is Luke 12:38, and this is an eschatological passage. This is actually, remember, Luke is in tight chronological order, so this is actually one of the first passages of eschatology Jesus gives about the second coming. And he says, remember, don't get caught with millions of dollars, right? Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that you have and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heaven that faileth not, where no thief approacheth and no moth corrupts. He's talking about storing your treasures in heaven instead of on earth. And then he says, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Okay, and I believe, again, if your heart's in the right place, you're going to be spending your money on the kingdom in these last days. Let your loins be girded about and your lights burning. Okay, this is talking about you, right? Your loins be girded about with the gospel of peace, and your lights burning. That's talking about you reflecting the gospel. And you yourselves like unto men that wait for the Lord, okay, when he will return from the wedding, okay, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open to him immediately. Now, this is right out of Matthew 24. Remember, the guy is the wicked steward who is waiting for his master to come back to the wedding, and he gets drunk with a drunkard, okay? He said, blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say to you that he shall gird himself and make them sit down to meat and come and serve them. That's the wedding banquet. Now, if you understand this, remember, he's talking to a Jewish audience. In a Jewish wedding, what happens is that they have their wedding nuptials, okay? Then the bride and groom go away to their wedding chamber and consummate the marriage, and then the bride and groom come out and they serve a meal to the guests. So he's talking to his Jewish wedding, okay? So he's literally talking about the wedding supper, okay? Now remember, the wedding feast refers to the whole week-long festival. The wedding supper refers to the last part, and the wedding supper is the millennium, okay? If you're invited to that supper, you're in the millennium. And so he says, if he shall come in the second watch or in the third watch and find them, blessed are those servants. Well, this is exactly like Hosea. Hosea says, on the second day, remember, it's 1,000 years is like a day or a watch in the night. On the second day he will, or I'm sorry, after 2 days he will revive us, and on the third day he will live in our sight. That's Hosea 6, verse 3, I believe. And then this is saying in the second watch or the third watch. So what he's telling you is it's going to be either at the end of 2,000 years or in the beginning of the third 1,000 years after he departs. That's what that second or third watch is. So we've passed that. So what he's really telling you is basically he's saying you're not going to know exactly what it is. It could be in 1970 or it could be in 2030. See, so he's leaving it deliberately vague because he knows people are going to go to sleep and stop paying attention to eschatology. But the second watch or the third watch, he's telling you it's close, and we are in the third watch now. So we know it's soon. It's got to be soon because we're in technically the millennium right now. Because if the entire Earth's history is exactly 7,000 years, we're in the millennium right now. Okay. Now I don't know if it's exactly 7,000 years, but it was exactly 4,000 years from Adam to Christ's birth, if you do all the math. So I think we're in the millennium. I think the millennium started. Again, it doesn't have to be an exact millennium, but remember, Adam's millennium, because Adam died after 930 years. If Christ comes back by 2070, let's say. Okay, or it actually would be before that. Would be 2066, I think, would be the year. And then we finished out the 7,000 years. His millennium would be 970 years, just like Adam's was. We don't know. We'll see, but it seems like it's probably gonna be around 2033. Anyways, and it says, if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not suffered his house to be broken into. Be therefore ready, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour which you think not. Okay, and this is where people will get the doctrine of imminence from. But he's giving you, if you know Psalm 90, he's telling you it's either towards the end of the 2,000 years or in the beginning of the third 1,000 years after he departs. Because 1,000 years is as a watch in the night. Okay, so now that we know the general time frame, we want to understand then Ezekiel 38. And I put lots of videos out on Ezekiel 38, so I'm really just going to get to the geopolitics of this all. And this is really simple. So one of the things that's happening right now, you're going to find that all over, and you're going to find this pressure from NATO as well. NATO is going to apply this pressure, and the reason is because NATO wants Russia to exhaust themselves, okay? Because NATO is mostly European states. Remember, America, since Trump, has not really been helping NATO. Okay, NATO's got to stand on their own 2 feet. They're a bunch of big economies. Their economy as a whole is the size of China's. They shouldn't need our military support anymore. But we don't really want Germany to take that over. Anyways, Zelensky, this is the president of Ukraine, is asking Turkey to block warships from entering the Black Sea. Well, Russia, in order to get ships to the Black Sea here, they have to go through the Dardanelles, and this is this tiny, or I'm sorry, the Bosporus. This is the Bosporus. I've probably misquoted 100 times. This is the Bosporus, and this is this tiny little strait, and it's actually connected by bridges and tunnels, but this is where Istanbul is, okay? Istanbul's on both sides of this. And this these straits basically connect the Aegean Sea. If you see it right here, there's a choke point here and a choke point here. Let's see if I can make that bigger. And they could easily block Russia from dropping ships there. All they'd have to do is take one tanker and just sink it right there, and Russia would not be able to do anything about it. And they would have to fight an all-out war with Turkey, which we learned through Gallipoli and the Crimean War. You cannot invade Turkey from right here. It is all mountains going downhill. You're not going to invade Turkey from here. Turkey is so mountainous. It's so... This Turkey, the reason the Ottoman Empire was conquered and they just kept Turkey is Turkey is all mountains. It is very hard to invade. From the west you can, but it's still kind of tough. So Russia cannot bank on their ships always being able to come there for their supply lines. This is important. That also means if Russia wants to invade the Middle East, they can't bank on their supply lines coming through here and going through here or going around. Okay, so what they need to do is form this land bridge down to Persia, because remember, Iran is an ally. Tubal is Georgia. Their capital is Tbilisi, and then Gomer is Armenia. That's a well-known fact. So Armenia is Eastern Orthodox. They're kind of like Russia's little brother, and they're always being persecuted by the Turks and the Azerbaijanis. If you remember, there was just a limited war this past year against Armenia, and Israel was supplying Azerbaijan. This is Turkish people with drones to fight against the Armenians. So Russia is not going to have a problem coming up with a reason to go into Armenia, because they're going to basically say, we're defending Armenia from the Turks and the Azerbaijanis and the Israelis who are supplying weapons to them, and we're basically putting bases here and taking over. They also shored up, they already have bases there, and they shored them up when Turkey shot down some of their planes a few years ago. They're already doing the same thing in Georgia that they're doing in Ukraine. So they would point to their Russian populations in the east, and in Georgia they point to these two regions called I think Ossetia, and I forget what the other one is, but they say they have Russian ethnic people there, and they say the Georgians are abusing them, the Georgians are doing genocides on them, and it's all a lie. But this is the exact same tactic Hitler used in World War II to take over Czechoslovakia. There was a part of Czechoslovakia called the Sudetenland. And the Sudetenland was mostly populated by Germans because it was just south of Austria. And so it also happened to be the most mountainous region of Czechoslovakia. And if you took that region, it would be really easy for you to roll downhill and take the rest of Czechoslovakia, which they did after that. And so they argued, and they said, we are going to go to war over the Sudetenland unless you just give it to us. And that's when Neville Chamberlain of England gave up the Sudetenland. And basically they said, oh, that's how we got peace in our time. And of course, Hitler just turned around and immediately annexed all of Czechoslovakia. If they had stood up to Hitler right then and decided to fight, Czechoslovakia had like the second largest tank force in all of Europe. The French and the Czechs together, with support from England, without Russia's help, could have stopped Hitler. But they gave Hitler exactly what he wanted, and then Hitler basically took out that entire tank force. And now it was France basically standing alone in continental Europe against Hitler. And so Hitler decided to take Poland real quick with Russia's help, and then take France. That's how it went down. So they're going to do the same thing here. They're going to basically, once they're done taking Ukraine, and I'm going to show you Ukraine. The reason they want Ukraine, people are like, oh, it's because of gas prices in Europe. No, that's a tiny part of it politically. That's not why, okay? They're planning an all-out invasion of the Middle East. In the Middle East, Turkey has wanted to run, or I'm sorry, Iran has wanted to run pipelines in the Mediterranean, and so has Russia, to supply Europe for years, but Turkey's blocking them, okay? What the Turks and the Western powers are trying to do is run all this Saudi Arabian oil through pipelines through Syria, Israel, and Turkey into Europe, so they don't need to rely on Russian oil at all. That would bankrupt Russia's government, okay? Russia needs to basically stop that from happening in all these regions, because they got Black Sea natural gas and oil too now, and they're all bypassing Russia and making Russia obsolete as a supplier of oil. Remember, if Russia can't sell oil and keep its government and its military strong, Russia basically becomes a Canada, because they're largely landlocked. They don't have warm water ports. They have lots of natural resources, but they don't have big port cities to ship from. And so they can't grow New Yorks and big cities like Istanbul that's right on a shipping lane. And so Russia relies on export of oil mostly. And Canada's going to grow to become that as well. And think about it like this. Without their nukes and without their military, Russia is basically like a Canada for China. China has the big economy like the U.S. does, and the small economy that supplies them lots of natural resources. You have Canada for us, you have Russia for China. Okay, and they go from being a world superpower to squat. Remember, they have been the largest kingdom and nation state in the world since about the 8th or 9th century. Okay, and they would go to basically being an obsolete Canada. Okay, so they don't want that. So they need to take these supply lines so they can ship all the weapons and supplies they need. Remember, they're going to invade the Middle East. They need tons of water. people, they need ammunition, they need food, all that stuff shipped out of the Middle East, because basically this is all desert right here. Okay, so they have to go here. They're going to support with ships here, but they can get blocked here. So they have to get this land bridge going. And in order to do that, they have to make sure, because NATO, what they would do as a counter move, if they tried to take over the Middle East, that is World War III full blown. Okay, what's going to probably happen is Russia is going to take Ukraine up to the Dnieper, and that's this river system right here. They're going to take all these cities. So they have Crimea, they have the entire Ukraine up to the Dnieper, and right now they're besieging Kiev. Once they have Kiev, there's nothing to stop them from holding the entire Dnieper. They just fortify all these positions right here, and there's no way the Ukrainians are going to do it. All of Europe combined could do it, but all of Europe is not going to fight for Ukraine. No way. They're not going to launch World War III for Ukraine. Russia's got nukes pointed at every one of them. Okay? So once they hold this, they're really just going to dissolve Ukraine's government, and they're going to let these states break up, and then they're going to basically play off these states against each other. So they're going to play out the different governments against each other. Some of them are going to be pro-Russia, some of them are going to be pro-NATO, but it doesn't matter because they're all tiny. And there's not going to be enough to start a unified front against Russia. And so Russia now has this whole lane secure. Belarus is an ally, okay? Russia could easily invade via Lithuania and Estonia, so they're not going to do anything. But they've got Belarus as an ally, and now they've got this whole shored up place. So now they can run their supply line here, okay? What you probably are going to see next is North Korea flexing against South Korea while China either threatens to or does invade Taiwan, okay? And people are saying that could happen after the Olympics are over. I don't know if the Olympics are over yet. Okay, so the Olympics are over, so and they could do that. I don't think China's going to take Taiwan until World War III is full blown. I think that's the only thing they're going to do. Everything else I think they're going to do is economic, because China and Turkey are going to remain as world superpowers once Russia and I believe North Korea and America and Iran are put down in this war. Iran will remain a power too. They're not going to get nuked. It's going to be Magog, which is nuked, and like I always said, Gog is Korea, Magog is, I believe, Russia, because again, Magog is Mongolia, but remember, Mongolia was all of this. It was the Scythians, it was the Huns, it was the Mongols, it was all of this. So they also Gog mixed with the Turks, and there was a nation here called the Gok Turks, and then Gogoryu was the land of Gog. So Gog's main land was right here. Magog, his father, was right here, and the Gog Turks were mixed with them. So this Gog-Magog was literally basically all of Russia. Okay, and then the chief prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. Remember, Rosh, the Kievan Rus originally came from Ukraine, so that's the Rosh. The Riphean Mountains, which are the Urals, where the Russians came from, are right here. So there's your Rosh. Meshech is the Muscovites, and Tubal is Tbilisi. So what the Spirit is saying is that Gog and Gog of Magog, remember, he's the son of Magog. He's the chief prince of Magog. So he probably was the firstborn son of Magog. It doesn't say in the Bible, but that's why he inherits all this land around here, or a latter, prince like a King David who, came later and was very powerful. He is over Moscow, Tubal, which is Georgia, and Rus, which is Belarus. That's Rosh, and Ukraine used to be the Kievan Rus. So there's the Rosh. Meshech is here, and Tubal is here. Okay, and so they're going to take Georgia. They're going to take all of Georgia. There's no way they're going to leave any of it unkept. And then they're going to take Armenia. Okay, and so they're going to form this narrow land bridge here. They might take Azerbaijan because they had it during the Soviet era, and just to make sure, because we have bases there and stuff like that. Don't be shocked if they do that. But all they really need is Armenia, because once they have Armenia, they can just run supply lines here. But remember, Israel is supplying drones to Armenia, so they might just take Armenia too. Might just take everything between the Black Sea and the Bosphorus Sea. And they will capture a bunch of oil lines. So that's going to be a big deal. Oil prices are already going up over this. They're going to keep going up. Expect oil prices of $5, $6, $7 a gallon. Or gas prices. Expect that to keep going up, because Russia's going to knock it all out. The Saudis are going to produce more, but remember, we knocked out all our production and all our Canadian. They will restart the Enbridge natural gas pipelines, but you buy Enbridge stock, you guys. But they're not going to they're trying to break America with all this green crap, and Europe's doing the same thing too. They're trying to break everybody for the Great Reset. So once Russia has all this, they're going to sync up with Iran. Iran is probably going to invade Iraq because Iraq's government is weak. Yes, they have a large base from us right now, but remember, all this is going to happen at once. You're going to see North Korea probably attacking South Korea, or just not attacking South Korea and just going straight for America and Alaska. Because North Korea could easily go through Russia and invade Alaska, down through New York, and I believe they're going to get into Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. That's what I think they're going to do. The reason they do this is because they create a front. Remember, they have nukes, so they're going to try land invasion, and if we start to crush them too much, they can nuke us. Okay? And they can say, fine, if you nuke us, we'll nuke South Korea. So there's an incentive not to nuke. Okay? If they invade into here, that makes America busy with North Korea, fighting here. Possibly countries like Cuba. I doubt Venezuela, but possibly Cuba invading Miami. It's a long shot. But what Russia's probably going to do is nuke our major port cities on the East Coast, probably San Diego. We're going to nuke Russia back. That's okay. Russia has massive backup cities in Siberia. China has massive backup cities. They're prepared for nuclear war. We don't have backup cities. We do have underground tunnels, but we don't have backup cities. Our backup cities are underground, and they're huge. And yes, the boring company that Elon Musk runs is not drilling. they're drilling for the elite. They're not drilling for you. Okay. So they're going to basically probably Iran's going to take Iraq. We put a wall around Jordan right here, which is basically it's more of a surveillance wall than a defense wall, but it's meant to block them and funnel them, which forces them to go through Israel. So as you can see, they're going to have these roads here, and all these roads from basically Iran. They're probably going to leave the Kurds alone. Honestly, they're probably going to go straight through Baghdad to Damascus, and then by ship, probably from up here. Turkey's going to keep pressing down here. Remember, Turkey's already in Syria. So Turkey's going to be pressing down here. And they're going to go through Damascus, and their main invasion force in Israel is going to go from the north. Okay? That's what's going to lead to Damascus getting nuked, and that's Isaiah 17. Okay? America's going to fall. That's Isaiah 13. It's going to talk about the branches of the tree. Remember, the branches of the tree, look at this as a giant tree, right? There's the boughs of the tree, there's the stem of the tree, there's the root system of the tree. The branches are going to get lopped off, okay? And it says the birds of the air are going to nest on them. That's the demonic powers that are currently just infiltrating and infesting America. And then it says the beasts of the earth are going to, the birds of the air are going to summer on them. That means in the summer, remember, the summer is before the harvest, so pre-rapture, demonic powers are just basically going to take over America. It's going to be awful here. It's going to be Nazi Germany over here. They're going to summer on them, and then the beasts of the earth are going to winter on them. So that after the harvest, after the rapture, the beasts of the earth, and that's going to be the last days superpowers, and that's going to be the king of the north is going to be England again. They're going to reconstitute they're going to hook up with Canada, probably Greenland, probably the Scandinavian countries, probably Australia and New Zealand. I doubt South Africa, but and they're gonna probably our Navy's gonna defect to them. So England becomes a superpower again. They're gonna be the king of the north. The king of the south is gonna be Ethiopia. They're gonna control sub-Saharan Africa for the most part. Probably a major ally. It's gonna be Ethiopia and Nigeria. They're gonna become, like, if you will, the New York and Los Angeles of sub-Saharan Africa, and all this is going to start to ally against the Antichrist because he's going to have a revived Roman Empire. And then China's going to lead the kings of the East, and the kings of the East are going to ally. Brazil's probably going to control all of South America. North American Union is going to be controlled from Texas. So you're going to have kingdom 1, 2, 3. Remember, the Antichrist subdues 3 kings. So you're probably going to see the Middle East and North Africa as 1 kingdom, Europe as 2 kingdoms, and probably, my guess would be, like the former Soviet republics as a 3rd kingdom, the CIS, and Turkey. Remember, all these are Turkish countries, okay? And Russia itself is going to be nuked, so they're not going to be a power. They're going to be in Siberia, mostly over here. And the kings of the east is probably going to be China, probably Japan. India, I think, is going to stay linked up with Saudi Arabia because there's a lot of workforce exchange there. But it might not be, because once they have all the technological talent from America and Israel and all this stuff, and Europe and the Middle East, they might not need Indian technological talent anymore, and they might join the kings of the east. But you're probably going to see Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan forming a block. I don't know if that's going to be one of 10 kingdoms. But your kings of the east are going to be mostly right here that are going to march against them. And then again, Ethiopia is on the east of Africa. Brazil is on the east of them. And we're basically going to be a colony, a resource colony for the kings of the east. And they're all going to go against the king of the north is going to send ships against them. So the American Navy is probably going to be involved in Armageddon. And all this stuff is going to be after the fact. But you're going to look for nukes hitting major port cities in America. Just get out. Get out of Chicago. Get out of New York. Get out of Boston. The reason these cities are getting so awful with the pandemic is God's telling you, leave. Get out. He's trying to make you miserable, so you leave. That's how God tries to get you out of a bad relationship, out of a bad church, out of a location he doesn't want you to go. He burns your relationships. He makes it miserable for you. He's saying, leave. Just go. Just leave. Don't be there. All the demonic stuff that's going on in, remember, what are some of the worst cities in the east? Seattle and Portland. Why? Because they're going to get invaded by North Korea. Get out. Christians, get out. You're in Los Angeles. You're in San Francisco Bay Area. You think you're holding on with your church there. You're not making a dent. Get out. Leave. Leave. Tell them where you're going. If you got any connections with people, tell them, hey, we're leaving, blah, blah, blah. If you need us in the Lord, let us know, but we're out. Leave. Leave. And I mean in the next 6 or 7 years. It could be the next, honestly, it could be the next 5 years nukes are flying. Get out. Leave. Okay? If you're in Houston, leave. If you're in Miami, leave. If you are in Washington, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, leave. New Jersey, Delaware, the whole state, leave. Get out. Get out of all of this, because these nukes are big enough to send a 100-mile radius of nuclear stuff. Get out. Leave Providence, Rhode Island. Leave New Haven. Leave Hartford. Leave Springfield. Leave all of New England, unless you're way upstate. And I mean upstate. I mean north of Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, upstate. Maybe up in Bangor, Maine, you're fine, okay? Portland, Maine, leave. Harbor, remember, these are all where naval bases are. Leave. Get out. They're nuclear targets. Leave, 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 leave. Leave. Go. If you're in Philadelphia, get east of Harrisburg. Or I'm sorry, west of Harrisburg. If you're in Baltimore, Washington, get out. If you're in Virginia, get out. If you're in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, any of that, get out. Richmond, get out. Remember, if you're not here, you're going to be where tons of nuclear refugees are fleeing. Okay? Get out. Roving mobs going for your food. Get out. If you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, get out. All these places, get out. Get to the country. Get to the mountains. Get to Tennessee, Nashville, Knoxville, and not major cities, small towns around them. Don't go for the major cities. Get north of Montgomery, Birmingham. Get north of Arkansas. Remember, our backup government is going to be in Arkansas, but it's going to contend with a backup government in Austin. There's probably going to be backup government in Kansas City. Fargo, North Dakota is going to grow. Go to Fargo, North Dakota. Go to Duluth, because these are going to be where supply lines end and ship through the Great Lakes. They're spending the next 10 years expanding the Soo locks, because right here you need these locks to raise and lower the ships to get through the Great Lakes. They're going to be expanding this over 10 years. Okay, this is where I'm living. Okay, they're expanding it because they know once these bombs hit in World War III, they're going to ship all this stuff up to Duluth and ship it through the Great Lakes, and that's how they're going to supply New York, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Canada. Okay, with all the stuff that used to come from New York and what was that big canal that New York built? Leave these places, okay? St. Louis is good. Oklahoma City's good. Kansas City's good. Nashville is good. Memphis is good. Atlanta, get the heck out. Center for Disease Control, get the heck out. Get the heck out. That's a target. That's a major transactional hub, but it's also where the CDC is based. Dallas could be a target. Houston could be a target. Austin, too small, too non-industrialized yet. You're probably good in Austin. Albuquerque, Mexico, you're probably good. Phoenix, I think you're okay. Phoenix, Tucson, I would pick Tucson over Phoenix. But remember, these are valleys and deserts. Like, they're careful, okay? But I would not be in Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Sacramento, any of this, because again, this is all stuff that could be getting bombed. Nevada's military bases, I would get east of Nevada. I would get east of Spokane, because if I'm North Korea, or it's gonna be North Korean and Russian forces, I'm gonna try to take all the way to Spokane. I'm gonna try to take these two states completely. And then I'm going to try to take it, but these are effectively going to become Chinese colonies at the end. But essentially, they're trying to take and hold them and get America to such a point where they've got too many fronts going on. That's the idea, is getting America fighting on two fronts, so they can't help the Middle East. And so Israel's on their own in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia and Britain and all these stuff are going to protest, but they can't do anything about it. They've got their own fronts to worry about. Britain is probably spending all their resources to shore up Australia and New Zealand against China. That's what they're worried about, okay? They're also shoring up, not those guys only, but they're also shoring up probably the Scandinavian countries, and they're probably growing their navy to defend against possible Russian invasions here. And what they're probably going to do is they're going to put all their eggs in the basket of Poland. Poland is going to be a new front for them, because it's either that or make Germany strong again, and then you've got Nazi Germany back. And yes, Nazi Germany could easily come back. And so they're not going to want that. So they're going to strengthen Poland, and then they're going to make sure they're to have naval ships here and stuff like that to make sure Russia doesn't invade here. Okay? So Russia's going to have this. The King of the North is going to start to grow their power during World War III, but they're not going to fight. Saudi Arabia is going to grow their power, but they're not going to fight. China's going to grow their power, but they're probably just going to take Taiwan. Same thing with Ethiopia. Their Renaissance Dam is supplying all the electricity to Africa. They're going to expand the internet. Watch for that. Watch for big internet expansion, but with China's help. But Ethiopia controls the electricity, okay? Because they have the Ethiopian highlands that put dams all over to supply electricity to all the surrounding countries. So watch for Ethiopia becoming a superpower. You're going to see Ethiopia, and your superpowers are going to be Ethiopia, the United Kingdom, France and Germany. Remember, these were all the Franks at one point in time. They're one kingdom. So there's one of your kingdoms. It's going to be a Frankish kingdom primarily. Turkey's not going to have one, but Turkey's going to take it over. They're going to pluck up the three kings. Okay, that's probably all the Turkestan countries are probably going to be one. And then they're going to take over more. India is probably linked up. Honestly, you're probably going to have Burma, because all this is like Hindu/Buddhist, okay? And this is probably going to be one of the 10 kingdoms. Bangladesh is largely Muslim, but there's a lot of Buddhists and Hindus from basically India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Burma, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. These are kind of your Hindu Buddhist communities, and there's some in China, obviously, in Tibet. This is going to be your fundamentalist Islam, Iran, Turkmenistan. Well, I'm sorry, not Turkmenistan. Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan. That's your fundamentalists, and then they'll control Iraq. These countries are actually pretty moderate when it comes to Islam. Islam is more like a cultural decoration for them than fundamentalist Islam. But don't be surprised if they, Belt and Road Initiative, they link up with Turkey culturally, and they try to make that one of the 10 kingdoms, and Turkey's going to basically end up with a wall here, because China's going to be like, screw that, because they're going to have all their Belt and Road and probably take that over. And then that's when Turkey is going to kind of feel snubbed, and they're going to be like, well, fine, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take over the Middle East and Egypt, and now we control the oil flow to Europe, and we just did what Russia tried to do, only we succeeded. And that's how they're going to control a revived Roman Empire. Look for that after World War III. Turkey will stay out of World War III. Again, we walled off Jordan, and Turkey walled off all of Turkey. Okay, so they're literally creating a funnel from Russia down to Israel to say, go around Jordan, go around Saudi Arabia, you can take Iraq and Syria, and then after Russia fails, Russia and Iran fail, Turkey's going to succeed. Probably Iran is going to hold on to everything up to the Euphrates River, and on one side, and we're probably going to help NATO's. Remember, we have a huge base in Baghdad. Turkey's probably going to link up with that base, and Turkey's going to control everything west of the Euphrates. They're going to deepen the Euphrates because they control the dams, and they can do that. And then Iran is going to basically control the other side. So look for the Euphrates get flooded and deep again, and then look for the Turks eventually after World War III. They're going to control. Got a map of this actually. After World War III. Remember, Turkey already has this border wall, okay? And we have a wall around Jordan. That wall wasn't there when I made these videos. Sorry. Turkey already has this border wall, and we put a wall around Jordan. That wasn't there when I published this book. This is new, okay? So what's going to happen is after they invade and they fail, Turkey is going to claim all of this, flood the Euphrates River, and probably flood the Tigris River. Turkey is probably going to promote, either Turkey or Iran are going to promote a free Kurdistan. So you're going to have Kurdistan in the north, Iran taking over in the south, and then Turkey taking over all this, and Turkey probably holding Baghdad too. But because Baghdad is going to be largely flooded, because they're going to deepen the Euphrates River, and there's going to be the contention on both sides there, you're going to probably see most of the Sunnis from Baghdad move to Neom. You're going to see nuclear fallout cause the Lebanese, the Jordanians to move to Neom, and the Palestinians. The poor as a workforce, the rich as, owning properties and land and stuff. And Neom's going to start to blow up. I mean, you're literally going to have Baghdad, Beirut, and Amman, Jordan. Well, Amman might be there, but the north of Turkey, all these cities are going to pour Middle Easterners into Neom to grow this massive super city after World War III. Okay? And then once all that money's there, all your European, merchants and stuff are going to come there too, and it's going to start. That's Mystery Babylon. Jordan is going to remain free. Remember, it talks about these three countries. It says Moab, Edom, and the chief princes. So that would be of Ammon, which is Ammon. That's the capital. Are going to remain free from the Antichrist. Remember, we put a wall around this. If you know why, it's because Jordan is a weapons dealer to all of the Middle East. Okay, they have a strong kingdom. They actually have a sovereign king who also flies planes in the Air Force, and they are a weapons dealer for all of the Middle East. So they remain neutral. They're kind of like a Switzerland, and they deal weapons to everybody. They will be left alone. That's why Russia's not going to try to invade them. Turkey's not going to try to invade them. And then Saudi Arabia is probably going to remain alone, an ally of Turkey. But Turkey's going to try to take this and Egypt, because once they have that in Egypt and Israel, they will control the flow of oil between the Middle East and Europe, and that's their checkmate. Okay, so what Turkey's going to do is they're going to take this. The rumors are going to start to circulate that the guy who's doing it is the Messiah. He's the Danite. Then he's going to go into Egypt, take Egypt, and once he's taken Egypt, and he's basically got a bolster, he's going to start to invade Libya and Ethiopia, or I'm sorry, Libya and Sudan. That's when news from the north and east, and that's the kings of the east gathering against him, is going to trouble him and make him move his armies and shift up here to go fight Armageddon, because he's going to realize they're going to get ready to come against him. And they're going to dry up the Euphrates River, just like they did when they sacked Babylon, because remember, he is the king of Babylon, mystically. Okay. And then they're going to invade and do Armageddon. So he's going to know that, and that's when he goes up into Israel and he sits in the temple and claims to be God. Okay. That's his checkmate. This is his kingdom. Okay. The three kings he plucks up are essentially North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. So look for that after World War III. Again, and all this isn't exact. Again, when you're predicting the future, it's not exact. But look for similar things. I haven't gone for exactness, but what I have speculated has largely proven to be pretty close to exactly true. So, you guys, again, I'm trying to get people prepared. I mean, I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to grow a fan base. I'm trying to get people prepared. So this is what's going on. Again, if you guys are, please message me if you guys are interested in economic content, because I went to school and economics was one of my points on my major, but I'm not a financial guru. I'm just somebody who's figuring this out as I go. But I have figured out how to trade my own stocks in the past year and a half. I am now learning how to transfer that money into businesses. I'm buying my first rental. I'm Airbnb my house. I'm going to look for Airbnbs overseas. Um, you want to. I realize I probably have a little bit more money than most people watching, but you guys, you want to take what you have and group and collectivize together and do things like that. Think about this. If you and your three best friends can go buy a house in Costa Rica and go stay there for a year or two until the World War III blows over and then come back to America, you can live and you can survive there. It's not that expensive. Okay, especially if you have a job that you can work remotely. I'm blessed to have that. But get together, buy properties in out of town places. These cities that everyone's leaving that are run down right now, remember, if you can hunt and fish and get to your local farmers market, you guys, and work remotely, doing anything, doing Google support or work in some medical transcription job or whatever you're doing, you're better off than having a great job in a major metropolitan area, because those major metropolitan areas are going to get flooded with homeless and refugees. They're going to fence a lot of them off. I've had dreams of like entire cities being fenced off. I mean, entire cities, major metropolitan areas being fenced off by the military because there's so many refugees, and they're going to force those refugees in the camps, and a lot of them are going to die there. These camps are going to be run by mercenaries who only care about the money. So I hope you guys, again, take heed on that. Again, read Isaiah 17, read Isaiah 13, read Ezekiel 38 and 39. Just read all the Isaiah stuff about the nations, because the context for all that is the last days. And then, like I said, that's what Russia's going to do. They are going to take at least half. I don't think they're going to take the whole thing. I think they're going to take Kiev and call it good. So be blessed. Enjoy your Sunday, and Batman out. Peace.
Peace, I'm out. I'm Batman.